Hey everybody, welcome back to Arm Pitching Development. Today I thought we'd look at Pitch Arsenal 101, pitch types, pitch grips, and pitch strategy mixed into this presentation. You know who I am or new to the channel, my name's Coach Jason, a 20 plus year baseball pitching coach at the collegiate and high school level. I'm a private instructor at 643 Baseball Academy, own and train the Arm Pitching Development Program at the Academy's facility. So today I thought we would learn a little bit about pitch types, pitch arsenals, pitch by age, a whole slew of different things that go on behind why we want to throw a specific pitch, and then understanding what pitch may be a good fit for you or your athlete and or the athletes that you're coaching or your son, right? So understanding the tools of the trade, let's dive into the slides. I do want to say one thing before we get started. If you want a copy of this presentation in terms of the card decks, I think I'm going to make that available on my PayHip account. So in the description of this video, you'll see digital books and different things there. There's a link. Click on that link. I'm going to have this PDF available for you guys in the audience. Okay. All right, let's move on to slide number 1. Okay, why pitch variety matters. Okay, pitch variety is strategic advantage. Different pitches allow pitchers to keep hitters off balance and reduce predictability. Okay, ultimately, if hitting is about balance, pitching is about the disruption of balance in the hitter's timing. Okay, it's the disruption of timing, the disruption of the hitter's balance. Okay, pitch evolution, modern pitching isn't just about speed. Its movement and deception are crucial, right? And if you're watching major league games currently, you're going to see a lot of velocity, and you're going to see a lot of heavy movement pitches, right? I don't think this is a new thing. I think pitchers from decades ago were movement oriented as well, or even more so than fastball oriented straight line pitchers. So I don't know that modern pitching is really the right take. I just think it's pitching in general, but I put it in there anyways because we're in a modern time, right? And then skill development, understanding grips helps pitchers master control, spin rate, and ball movement. Okay, so something to think about as we go forward, what we're trying to get after and accomplish. What pitch makes sense for you or your athlete, right? Okay, moving on to the fastball family, the foundation of pitching, right? So when you start pitching, you don't start with curveballs, you don't start with anything other than really your four-seam fastball, right? And then here's some examples. You can see the pictures over here. This is a traditional four-seam grip, and then two-seam, and they sinker grip. And I would argue that it's not necessarily sinker grip because every pitcher is a little bit different. So you may get sinking action on your two-seam grip, but that's going to be heavily dependent upon arm slot and movement patterns mechanically. So it's not that you will hold this grip and then you'll get that end result. It doesn't necessarily work like that. Okay. And then the cutter being in the family tree of fastball, right? Looks like four seam, but shifted slightly off center. We've got Mariano Rivera and his cutter. If you're not familiar, this is probably the best cutter grip that has been known to man in terms of the highest level of pitching, right? So anyways, there's your grips for your fastball family, right? And then let's move on to slide number 4. Okay, breaking balls, movement over power, right? Curveballs, you can see Clayton Kershaw and his approach to curveball as far as the grip goes here. And then we've got a slider grip, which is slightly off center of the two seam. I will argue that there's many slider grips, there's many different curveball grips, there's many different grips for all sorts of things. This is something that we're going to explore as we go through the slides a little bit more about how do we decide, or how do we get to a matching point for pitch to pitcher. And they call that in modern times pitch design. When I was younger, it was called throw a ball with a bunch of different grips and see which one works best for you. So it was experimentation, I think, in the non-modern game, and then now it's called pitch design in the modern game. So some of the folks that may be a little bit older will resonate with that, being in the backyard throwing with your dad, like look at this curveball and then trying to make manipulation or changes into your position of your ball in hand. Okay, sweeper is more of a horizontal slider. I would say that when you go to a sweeper, it's more of a casted lower 3/4 arm slot. Okay, and your curveballs and your higher sliders can maybe somewhat elevated arm slot or higher 3/4 arm slot. Okay, and then on here you'll see a little bit of a diagram of pitch direction for right-handed pitchers and what they should look like. So your four seams, your two seams, your changeups should have inward movement to them, and this is for right-handed pitcher. And then your outward movement, your opposite batter approach, right? Your glove side movements are going to be your cutters, sliders, and curveballs. Okay, and we'll cover some other different pitches in there, but that gives you kind of an idea. If you're looking at it from a batter's perspective, right? Let me try to open this up for you guys a little bit. If you're looking at this from a batter's perspective, you're going to see your four seams, two seams tail run in just a little bit. And then sorry about that, if you got your cutter sliders, they're moving away from right-handed hitters. All right. Okay, things to consider. Moving on. Okay, changeups. With a changeup, it's about deception off of your fastball. You want everything to look and feel the same as if you were throwing just a normal fastball. You want that presentation, and then working the changeup grip will help you take miles per hour off of the pitch. Okay, so we have some traditional pitch grips here. You have your circle change, you have a 3-finger change, which I would use more for training younger athletes to start with, because it's an easier pitch grip to work with than the traditional circle change. You could counter that a little bit with, if you learn these grips at younger ages, then as you grow and get older, they feel more comfortable. I'll be the first to tell you that a traditional circle changeup felt really uncomfortable to me for a long period of time. So much more to the fact that I shelved it and went to more of a split finger pitch. So, and we'll look at that here in a little bit as well. But here you see an example of a major league pitcher throwing a changeup, down and in approach, and you'll see a nice fading, sinking action to it. So that's what it should look like. And then you have me here holding a Vulcan change, split change, right? And that's just another variant that you could use that may feel a little bit more comfortable or more controlled for you. So mostly you want to throw these against opposite-handed batters, and then follow up after fastballs for deception, right? We already kind of discussed that. I will say this, if you're a left-handed pitcher, one of the best pitches you can throw is a changeup that fades away from a right-handed hitter. You'll get so many swing and misses on that pitch, it's insane. So if you have a left-handed pitcher, if you have a left-handed son that you're looking at, like, what pitches should I work on and develop, a changeup is a great pitch for left-handed pitchers. And it is for right-handed pitchers as well, but I have seen some lefties be really, really successful with a good changeup mixed in. Okay. All right, moving on. Going to slide 6. Okay, specialty pitches. Okay, unique weapons, right? These are non-traditional, right? We had your fastball family tree, then you had your curveballs and sliders, and then you had your changeups. Now we're into other things, right? Split finger fastball. This is what I was talking about a little bit earlier. This is a pitch that I changed to in my career because it felt more comfortable to throw out of my arm slot, and with the way I presented myself as a pitcher, I was a predominantly two-seam sinker pitcher, and this pitch just fit me well, and that's what I went with. Okay, so you'll have to decide for yourself what matches and what makes sense for you as a pitcher. Okay, got your knuckleball in a traditional sense, right? And then forkball. So what's the difference between forkball and split finger? When I pitched split finger, I had more of a relaxed, not relaxed, but a spacing here. Okay, and then I would try to snap it down as best I could to get more tumbling action on it. And then I would have variance to that grip too, but I always kept a little bit of space. This grip, this pitch is not for everyone out there because you have to have a fairly good sized hand for it to split in, right? And so on your forkball, I felt like it's more, maybe opposite, I can't remember, but your forkball would be more tight in and then more thrown maybe a little bit harder than the split finger. So I feel like splits a little bit more than the fork, okay? And then your gyro ball, look, I'm going to be honest with you. I threw this in there because it's like a talking point that I've seen. This is a really weird pitch where I feel like you're almost throwing it like a screwball or something, and then it's supposed to have a different flavor. It's overcut. I'll be honest. I'm going to leave that one alone because it's out of my scope of throw. But I'm adding it in there just because it is a thing. If you want to learn more about the gyro pitch, do some internet research or Google it. I actually saw a YouTube video of them working on it. I think it was in Japan or something, or somebody was throwing it and they did an interview with the guy. I thought it was kind of interesting. Listen, it's not for me. I doubt it's for you, but I threw it in there anyways just because I thought it would be neat. All right, let's carry on here, guys. All right, factors that affect pitch movement. Okay, grip pressure. Tighter grip equals reduced spin efficiency and velocity. So if you're squeezing the ball, it is a tactic, and you might get a better movement or better action on your pitch, but usually it comes with a little more less efficient spin than you would with a lighter grip. So when I talk about lighter grip, remember that spacing I showed you earlier on the split finger? That spacing carries on all my pitches where you see this gap here, okay? And if I was throwing fastball or something like that, see that spacing, guys? That's where it allows me to have a lot of snap and whip on my pitch, and I can get a lot of backspin and a lot of top spin with a lighter grip. For me, that was my approach. Some of you guys may be a little bit stronger gripped. If you're training younger athletes, 9, 10, 11, 12, and they have smaller hands, you're gonna see that they're gonna have a little bit more of a grip here on it, like a tighter grip. That's okay. As they grow, they'll get that worked out, or you can start presenting a little bit lighter grip with it. Okay, finger placements close together, a tighter, sharper break, right? And true with sliders, curveballs, like I said, even changeups where I have spacing here, right? Depending on your grip, but that's just a traditional circle changeup. And then arm angle and slot, overhand. So that's the higher 3/4 arm slot where you're more up top here and erect, so there's going to be more of a vertical break to them. So usually a lot of different sliders or curveballs come out of that slot. More of a traditional approach to it. And then sidearm, which is where I was at, more about a lower 3/4 arm slot, and more horizontal movements to them, sweeper, sinker, pitch, right? So when I throw, it'd come out this way and I'd get this type of spin to it from the side, and then it would move into right-handed hitters. Okay, so you have to decide where you're at. I want to make one side note on mechanical components to it. I always feel like I don't really care about where your slot is if I'm training a young person. But what I do care about usually is elbow height. So I like to keep the elbow even or above the shoulder, even if you have a longer arm slot. And then that will help maybe be a little bit safer on your approach with your pitches. Okay, something to consider. Okay, wrist action, snap, increased spin rate, and sharper break. That's what I was going back to, that looser grip, right? Looser grips, heavier snap or whip with the arm. That'll give you more increased spin rate or sharper break on your pitches. And then pronating and turning the wrist inward for change-ups. Okay, so going back to that circle change that I was presenting, if we're going off the throw, we're pronating down, and then it'll come off the fingers this way, and then you'll drive through your pitch, and that'll give it that nice down and in break. Same thing for left-handed pitchers, right? And then down and away for right-handed hitters. A spin rate and spin axis. Okay, spin rate affects how much a ball breaks or stays on plane. Okay, so spin rate, I did a video. If you guys want to learn more, I'll put the video here above me about spin rate and spin axis. But spin rate in efficiency, so like how tight, and if we want a little bit later action to the break, you want to try to work to throw the pitches a little bit harder. You want to throw them a little faster. Traditionally, that'll give you a little bit later life to them, depending on what grip fits your style of pitch. Okay, and then axis determines direction or movement. So if it's top spin and we're floating, then it should be a down angle, right? If it's gyro, then it should be more like slider, so horizontal movement. Okay. All right, let's move on to the next slide. Okay, matching pitch types with players and their strengths. Okay, some things for consideration. Velocity dominant pitchers, right? Build around your pitch styles, should be built around your fastball, because that would be your primary pitch. Okay, and then you want to use sliders or power changeups as a secondary. So what is a power changeup? And you need to know your velocities by age group a little bit, right? So if you're a strong velocity pitcher for your age, then you want to you're going to throw your changeup to match your velocity, and it's going to run a little bit, maybe 6-8 miles per hour off of your fastball. So it's going to be a little bit heavier pitch, but it won't be as light. So it's going to match your fastball more. Okay, some guys throw a lighter change, which would be a -10, and that probably doesn't fit your profile if you're a heavy fastball pitcher. Okay, movement focused pitchers lean on sinkers and changeup combos, add curve or sweeper for horizontal variation. That was me. I was more of a movement focused pitcher. Okay, command control pitches, prioritize repeatable mechanics and consistent grit. Use cutter and changeup to move around the plate. So these are less abrasive movement pitches, where if you get into your sliders and your curveballs, it's harder to get good pitchability out of those pitches, especially at younger ages. So you want to control that a little bit. You want to control the zone a little bit more with a little bit lesser abrasive movement pitch, like a cutter, or maybe a more traditional changeup. Okay, and youth development guys, focus on fastballs and changeup mix early. Okay, early on, and then introduce curveball. Right, for me, if you have proper mechanics, if you're in a good place with yourself mechanically as a baseball pitcher, that's when I would start to introduce some breaking pitches. I don't think it's necessary at younger ages. However, pitching can get boring, and if you're an 11-year-old that has really good mechanics or feel for themselves, I don't necessarily feel like you can't experiment. I know I experimented at younger age, 10, 11, 12 years old. I was throwing a lot of curveballs and different things and having fun. Okay, I'm going to tell you guys this. My philosophy on injury is not from a curveball. I believe it to be overuse. You're throwing too much, throwing too many pitches, throwing too many pitches too often. That's what's getting guys hurt, not throwing a curveball at 12 years old. There is a flip argument to that, and I do want to present all angles. With younger ages, your growth plates are wide open. Okay, and if you're putting some weird strain or undue stress on joints that aren't necessarily strong enough to handle that stress, that's where injury can come in on throwing curveballs or sliders at younger ages, right? I don't like sliders for younger ages. I'm going to tell you that right now. I don't like that at all. But mixing in a slip pitch or a curveball here and there at 12 years old, I don't think it's a big deal, guys. Honestly, that's my take. You can quote me on that. Okay, and then pitch archetypes by Pitch Arsenal, right? If you're dominant with high velocity four seam fastballs, okay, often secondary pitch that complements that fastball, such as a slider or curveball, right? And then if you look at Garrett Cole or Jake DeGrom, those guys fit that style, okay? And then you have your power pitchers, more like your Chapmans or Jordan Hicks guys, heavily fastball, over 95 miles an hour, right? That's almost all of Major League anymore, but that you get the point, okay? And then mix in some cutters and different things that play off of that pitch. And then control specialists. When I think control, obviously I think Greg Maddux, Kyle Hendricks, another guy, really, really good control. And you're just not overly thinking the velocity component to this. It's more of trying to make a really good pitch on purpose and then building off of that. So that's where I kind of come in with the control specialist. And then ground ball inducers. This was my flavor. I was more of a ground ball guy, and so that's a two seam fastball, sinkers. All right, generate ground balls. Try to miss barrels. Okay, the fastball looks good coming in. Late action life, swing over, top the ball. A lot of ground balls on my pitches. Okay, and then different examples are Dallas Keuchel or Adam Wainwright with those. So if you want to see, go back to YouTube or go wherever and take a look at those guys pitching with their fastballs and different pitches. You'll see what I'm talking about as far as their characteristics. Okay. And then versatile pitchers are pitchers that have a deep arsenal. They throw maybe more than four pitches, and they can mix it around a little bit. So you think Yu Darvish or Lance Lynn. Yu Darvish definitely has a lot of pitch arsenal and does a good job with it. Okay, so matching pitch types to player strengths, right? Know what type of pitcher you are, know where you're trying to get with. If you're 9, 10, 11, 12, let's focus on fastball command. Let's work on being a commandful pitcher and building velocities through throwing, more than trying to overlift and do all these special training procedures and all that. I don't think that's necessary. Go out there, be a multi-sport kid, build up your strength, learn how to control the zone, learn good mechanics. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Teaching and learning pitch grips, right? So visual learning tools, grip photos, just that I put up there early on the slides. Okay, look at their grips and then go out and try to experiment with those grips. Also look at slow motion videos of you or someone else throwing them, what it looks like coming out. And I do want to make a side note, like if you're throwing curveball or slider or whatever, but I always thought about when I was coming out to throw it is like bring my forearm and wrist through the catcher and then let it come off of there. But that's just an approach, it's like more forearm out than it is more, this part out and snap through it on your fastball. So just a little different tactics that you can learn and throw and release points. But look at guys that are throwing them, how they're releasing out, and then how can you mimic that style or flavor, knowing who you are as a pitcher. Okay, tactical learning, practice with grips, with dry drills, no throwing. So it's like visualization as well, or having a towel and then trying to work, or something that will help you emphasize feel over force grip. Okay, and then drills. My pitch height, fastball, wrist extension, finish drills. So like one thing I'll have the guys do is we'll work out in front of a weightlifting bar that has a little bit of spin to it, and then we'll work spin down on it to get snap and feel for release off of our fastball. So I like that a little bit. And then on the breaking ball, you can use different things. We have some cup spinners that we'll throw in the facility that will help kind of feel out where curveball slot or slider slot should be. And then, throwing them often, and then pronation drills where you're just focused here, running it down, maybe more from a finished position. So like start square with your target in a split stance, and I have drills for these as well. But you start in a split stance, simple, and just start to work the wrist action, wrist angle with your off-speed pitches will help build up in that. All right, and then considerations for safety: avoid throwing breaking balls too early. This goes back to that earlier conversation where I have a flip side to that. I think it's avoid throwing too many breaking balls too early. So it's an overuse thing. Emphasize proper mechanics to prevent arm strain. Yeah. And then you'll see here in this chart, I've got an age. So 9 and 10, what pitch types are appropriate for your age. Fastball, changeup, sinkers, two seams for 9 through 12s. And I know I have some 8-year-olds maybe out there too that are watching. You're going to be just probably fastball, okay, and probably more so 4-seam than 2-seam fastball. Even though for younger ages, this grip feels really comfortable because you can feel the seams and then throw that ball. I'm not against it, guys. Do what's necessary for you, okay? 4-seam, 2-seam, right? And then for 13 through 15, you start mixing in your curveballs and your cutters, right? And then 16 plus, you got all pitch types. And then I say, make sure that your mechanics are appropriate, or you're doing well, or else you're going to hurt yourself, okay, a little bit. So make sure you're safe with the way you're pitching a baseball first. Get your mechanics tightened up. Go see a professional. Go see somebody with guidance, or learn and then train in those positions. The positions may be awkward. We need to make awkward feel comfortable is what's up. I need to move this, but I'll let you guys see this. Sorry. I want to go back to the slider approach. One thing, if you guys are having trouble with your sliders, I saw one of my best friends that I played with for a long time. He had one of the best sliders I'd ever seen, and he had this grip here, and then he had his thumb a little bit off to the side of it, and it gave him more control through it here on the pitch. So something to consider: if you're not getting enough break, try to consider moving the thumb or positioning around on the ball and see if that doesn't help give you more spin to it or a better result at the end of the day. All right, let's move on. All right, summary and key takeaways today. Quote from Greg Maddox: the key to pitching is to have the ability to throw a strike when they're taking and a ball when they're swinging. I want you guys to think about that a little bit.